Juneteenth, I emceed a couple of events hosted by HCC's Student Life Department. The context of being free in the current cultural climate is so vitally important. And so we had 3 events. We had an overview of Juneteenth, a Facebook Live, because what we found is a lot of people still don't know why Juneteenth is commemorated. The theme of the programming was called Free to Be, Free to Breathe. The second one was called Protect Your Peace. And when we think about the intersection of a global pandemic and a cultural pandemic that has re-risen to America's conscience, we have to think about how people are processing that. A lot of what's happening is we're witnessing secondhand trauma when we're seeing violence on Black bodies. So we had a clinical licensed social worker who diagnoses mental health. And we also had a life coach, which can kind of contextualize things. And also on that panel, we had a student who spoke to his lived experience and how he's processing this information. And we got such positive feedback. People just really felt like it put a name to what they were experiencing. And the last event was called Voices from the Movement. And we had a panel of critical thinkers that came together that are about action. And I think it's so important. So we talked a little bit about people not understanding Juneteenth. Also, what happened from a curriculum standpoint in K-12 is that we got a very abbreviated version of what happened during the Civil Rights Movement. We heard about Dr. King, we heard about the bus boycott, we marched, and then we were free. And there was so much that happened in between that. And that in between is so vitally important for the context of making this moment more than a moment. So we had a distinguished panel of activists, scholars. We had a medical examiner who was the first Black chief medical examiner in America, who also did the independent medical examination on Sandra Bland. And they really just went through what they've brought to the movement, what piece of structural racism they're attacking. This event was designed to be a safe space. And when you create safe spaces, you have to acknowledge people's pain. And in that acknowledgement, we needed to pause and be intentional. And at 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we needed to center people in the need for this programming and the need for this discussion and the need for contextualizing this moment. We heard about him calling for his mom, but we didn't understand the trauma to the body that happens with sustained pressure on your neck. And so coming from a place of facts, we had the medical examiner walk through what happens. And she broke down what happens to the bodily functions, which ultimately resulted in death. And when we think about him saying, I can't breathe, in the Protect Your Peace event, we led the audience through a breathing exercise. It took our breath away to see him lose his breath, to see him lose his life. But even beyond that, we thought about more than George Floyd. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern where America said no more. We have to act.